In this exciting episode, I'm going to share with you my new garden in my new home here in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's a lot warmer than where I came from in Chicago, Illinois. And there's a lot of work to be done in the garden, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Alan Schaefer at Custom Garden Solutions. In today's exciting episode, I'm going to share with you my new garden in my new home just outside of Phoenix, Arizona. If you watched my most recent episode, I shared with you that I fulfilled a lifelong goal of permanently moving to the Phoenix area. If you're interested in finding out why I did it and what's going on, check out my most recent episode. I'm standing just outside of my garden in the agriculture club of the community I live in here. So there's hundreds of other like-minded gardeners in this space. So it's kind of a cool place to be. So I acquired this space in the winter of 2017. And we did a little bit of gardening in January, February, March, and April. And then I headed back to Illinois for the summer. And we did the best we could in covering up the garden so that it would be ready when I got back in October to garden right away. Well, it was a good plan, and like plans, sometimes they don't work out perfectly, but there's a lot of work to be done in the garden, and I wanted to share that with you today. So this will be a good before and after type series of episodes, because you're going to see there's a lot of work to be done. So to you, beginners and intermediate gardens, this is kind of proof that you can really start from nothing and have a beautiful, lush, herb and vegetable, easy for me to say, producing garden in basically not a lot of time. So I'm going to share with you what the garden looks like today, which is kind of a mess. And as I start to work on it, I'll share those episodes with you. And then we'll deal with disease, we'll deal with insect pressure, we'll deal with other issues in the garden. Then we'll harvest the garden. And hopefully you beginners and intermediates will learn quite a bit, and maybe some of your experts will pick up a point or two also. Feel free to jump in if you're from the Phoenix area and have any tips or tricks. I'd love to hear them in the comment section. Although I've gardened here a couple years, there's certainly more to learn. All right, so let's take a real quick tour of the garden. All right, so here's the new garden area. Extends just beyond my truck. It's about 40 by 40. It's really two spaces that me and a friend that I met out here, a neighbor, have gone in together on. All right, so let's go on inside. A little sunny right now. That's why they call it the Valley of the Sun, pretty sure. But so this is it. I'm going to turn around here so I can give you a good view of this. All right, so here's the front. Here's the front. And that white fabric, that white tarp you see, is silage tarp. And this is one half. And then there's a little aisle or walkway down the middle. I'm going to swing you all the way over to this side. And this other side, I'm using the other side of the silage tarp. The silage tarp is black on one side, white on the other. So this black silage tarp, we don't have any compost or soil underneath there. And that's the rear. As you can see, there's all kinds of dead weeds. We did the best we could, and actually the silage tarp held up really well. And we use what we call row bags to hold them down. They're kind of like sandbags, but they're filled with rocks, and they have little handles on them. And I've done 3 episodes already on silage tarps. If you're not using silage tarps, oh my gosh, they're just a lifesaver. If you have a garden of any size at all, even if you only have a 4x8 garden, you want to look at those episodes on silage tarps. They'll save you a lot of time and frustration. All right, well, we're inside the garden now, and man, there's a lot of work to do here. And the first thing you're going to notice is that the whole garden is caged in. It's like a Worldwide Wrestling Federation cage match in here. And the reason why is, as many people know, in the Southwest, it gets very dry. And that being said, the birds will eat the heck out of your plants if you don't take some proactive measures. So it's a lot different than Illinois, where you really don't get too much bird pressure until it gets really dry. So maybe once or twice in the last 10 years, I've had issues with birds kind of in my garden in Illinois. And that's typically when it's extremely dry out. They're just looking for a source of moisture. They're just looking to stay alive. So one thing is the cages. The second thing is, if you notice in the background, let me see if I can turn this. You see the green or black shade cloth. Well, when it gets 117 degrees and the sun's scorching in the middle of the summer, you need to do something to keep your plants a little cooler. Now, this right here is some shade cloth that we had rolled up, and I don't know what happened to the piece of PVC that rolled up in it. But what we do is we'll grow a lot of our cooler weather crops, our lettuces, our spinaches, our kales, things like that, even broccoli and cauliflower. And the weather here can be in the 90s in November and December, but it also could be in the 60s. So when it hits the 90s, we'll drop this down, and the sun in the west hits it, and it keeps the soil and the plants a little bit cooler. So this is something I need to fix. I need to get a piece of PVC, attach it to the bottom, so we can roll this up. For now, I'll just jam it in there and it'll stay fine. But this is one of the things we tried to take care of when we left, and the winds and the storm and the elements kind of beat us, kind of beat me. The other thing you're going to notice is we've used cinder blocks to build raised beds. On this side of the garden, here on the left, we've used cinder blocks that we reused when we purchased this area. And on the right side, we bought some cinder blocks and reused a few. But those are only about 3-inch by 16-inch cinder blocks. And the ones on the right side are more like 5 by 16-inch cinder blocks. And they really worked great. So we're really happy with that. And although I don't believe in tilling, I'm kind of a no-till gardener, and we'll get into that in future episodes. We did have to till this garden space. We took it over, and it hadn't been worked in quite a while. We had to pull all the weeds out, and there was wood, old garden tools, cinder blocks, fencing, conduit, chicken wire. There's things all over the place. So we had to clean it up. That took quite some time. And when we got down to the soil, it was rock hard like cement. We did use a rototiller. The garden community here, the agriculture club, has them for rent very inexpensively. I think it was $5 or something like that for an hour. And before we could even rototill, we had to water it for 2 hours just to soften it up enough so that we could use the rototiller. Otherwise, it would be like trying to rototill cement. And shortly after that, we put some compost over it and worked it in, and then we got a larger delivery of compost. All right, so now I'm on the area where, now I'm in the one large growing area that takes up almost half of the garden. And what we've done is when we weren't here for the summer, we covered these up with silage tarps. And we used these row bags, which have little handles on them. You basically just throw them onto the silage tarps, and they hold it down so that the wind and the weather and the seasons don't, blow your tarps away, so they serve no purpose. But they worked very successfully. There is no weeds inside the garden. Where we had issues is along the sides here. Let me show you this. So where we had issues is along some of the sides, like right there, you can see, nothing inside the middle where the silage tarps are. Those are the row bags. Where issues are on the outside, where the weeds saw had a small opening, and they just took over. The other area where we had issues with the weeds are along the aisle. And learned something new from the other agriculture club members. They use a lot of carpet here. And there's a carpeting company just outside the facility here that allows you to take carpeting that they would otherwise throw away for whatever purpose you want. And a lot of the gardeners here use it in their aisles and around the outside in the aisles between the gardens, because most of them are caged. I'd say probably 90% are caged. So there's little walkways between everybody's garden. So the carpet worked pretty good, right down the middle. Where we had issues is where the carpet was up against the cinder blocks for the raised bed. If there was just an inch of daylight, the weeds grow through, and as you can see, we've got just a ton of weeds that grew through. So, pretty good plan with the silage tarps, not so much good with the carpeting. Hello. So I know a lot of you are probably saying, boy, I don't know, man, using carpeting in your garden, that doesn't seem organic. That doesn't seem like the right thing to do for nature. But if you look at it this way, a lot of other people were doing it. I needed a solution for the walkways that might work. We didn't use it in the garden, we just used it in the walkways. It seemed to be working for other people. We get the carpet from a great little local carpeting company that gives it away for free. It's carpeting that they've taken out of people's homes, and it's carpeting that would have otherwise gone into a landfill or been thrown out. So in a way, we're actually doing something that's good for the environment. But don't know how happy I am with the carpeting on the inside. I think next year we're going to have to use silage tarps on the aisles, and where the cinder blocks meet the garden and the walkway, I think we're going to have to put kind of a bridge of silage tarp over the cinder blocks so that there's no gap, zero gap for the sun to get in so weeds can grow. Now, we did water underneath the silage tarps to keep the worms and the soil structure intact. When it gets up to 117 degrees and you got a tarp on and you're not in the garden for 5 or 6 months, you're basically killing your soil. So I did check, it is still moist. It's actually quite wet, and I'll be pulling off the tarps and cleaning up the weeds in our next episode. If you want to see me work, watch that episode. I'm not going to talk about the irrigation today. We'll talk about the irrigation when we get things cleaned up a little bit. but I'll give you a last walkthrough so you can see what kind of work we have ahead. Like I said, this is a great before and after episode where you see before and things look kind of bleak. And to your beginning gardeners, maybe you have, a piece of grass in your backyard and you're thinking about putting up a garden. So you could, start from nothing. And I guarantee in 6 weeks, I'll be having probably my first radishes and some of my first lettuce and spinach. So, you can do it, and I'm providing this before and after type series of episodes just for you, so you can kind of follow along and know that you can do it too, and maybe pick up a tip or two along the way. And for those more expert gardeners, maybe you can pick up a thing or two along the way also. All right, so here's the right side when you walk into the garden. And there's the outside where the truck is. But as you can see, what we've done is we used, I think they're 4x16 cinder blocks. And there's my phone. And this first one takes up about half the space. And then this mess here, these are the more, I think these are 3x16 cinder blocks. These were here before we got here, so we reused them rather than throw them out. And then we've got another one built here. And in this middle here is where we have the carpet. In this back area, we're thinking about building some type of shade area and a place to sit. So there's maybe a table, so there's an area to work, or we might just put another raised bed in there. Who knows? Maybe we'll put a tree of some sort or some grapes. I don't know. Do whatever we want. And here's just some other stuff going on here. We've got another one of the shade cloths here. As you can see, the weeds really got out of control. That cooler there under there is our timer and our controller for the irrigation. And this is the left side of the garden when you walk in. As you can see, no weeds where the silage tarp is. Typically you'd have the silage tarp black side up, white side down. In Arizona, because of the heat, we went the other route. I've done 3 episodes on silage tarps again, so check those out. They are going to make your life a lot easier. And you see people, other gardens in the background with their green and black sunshade. And this is just a shot of it from the rear. Here you see the 2 smaller beds, the 1 larger bed right there. I'll swing over to the other side. That's the 1 large bed on the east side when you walk in. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of my new garden. As you can tell, it's going to take a lot of work to get things in shape. And I'll be working on this like a dog the next couple days. I'm Alan Schaefer at Custom Garden Solutions. Our channel is all about helping you grow herbs and vegetables and all kinds of cool garden stuff so that you can live a healthier and happier life. If you're new to the channel and you want to learn all about growing herbs and vegetables and all kinds of cool garden stuff, then start today by subscribing. And so you don't miss anything, make sure you hit the notification bell so that you know when we release a new episode, because you never know where I'm going to show up next. Kind of like I showed up in Phoenix, Arizona, out of nowhere. This guy right here. Here. See them? Oh, right here. He's here too. Yeah. Both places. He's everywhere. The pepper's everywhere. I'm the pepper. I only have 4 fingers. 4 fingers and a thumb. 3 fingers and a thumb. What is it about animation? Do you ever notice that they only have 3 fingers and a thumb? It's like, okay, I get it. That's what they've done. But wouldn't somebody give them 4 fingers? Would they get arrested by the animation police? I don't know. Seems kind of dumb to me. And now, the star of the show, the pepper.